Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Battery Mates podcast. I am Sean. Over there is Miss Delaney. And Miss Delaney, how are vibes right now? it's
Um,
this is our first recording in season post that West Coast trip and the Marlin series at home. So how are you feeling?
I would say abysmal, but I did see signs of life in that first Marlins game. Um, Pitching is decent. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not, bad at times. Like everybody has off days. We're never going to be perfect, but our bats need to wake up. Horrendously, they need to wake up. We saw, like I said, some life in that first Marlins game. Um, but we cannot spend all of our runs in one game. We've got to do our best to keep it to close games, and we've got to do our best to actually score runs because teams that score runs tend to win games. Um, Not a chance to win if you don't score.
Yeah, yeah, and it's almost shocking how bad the offense has looked. Um, and I've said it before on social media and stuff. Like, I don't think that the 7 game losing streak is as um, emphasized if this happens in a West Coast trip at the end of May or the beginning of June. And it's like, oh well, it's just kind of the dog days of summer, and it's the West Coast trip, and we always suck when we go out west. And the Padres and the Dodgers are both excellent teams, and but I think it was just so highlighted because it was the first 7 games of the season, and
Yeah.
and to blow 2 games, um, realistically that we should have won. We ran. I think King and Snell pitched a combined like 6 innings between the two of them. Our bullpen blew the first game in San Diego, and then we blew a game in LA. And so, 2-5 feels a lot different coming home than 0-7. And then, like you said, we saw some signs of life in that first game against the Marlins. But then game two, it was more of the same of what we saw on the West Coast trip. So I do think that a ton of it is mental. There's also some hurdles the team's trying to overcome. We had the whole issue with Jerickson Profar and the PEDs, and just a couple days into the season, it's like, oh hey, by the way, he's gone for 80 games and won't be able to play in the playoffs if you guys get there. So that's tough. Injuries to start the season. Um, it just really kind of changed the trajectory to start the year and kind of stop the momentum before we could really get any of it going. So I definitely think it was a tough road trip. The Marlin series did give me a little bit of hope, and then we did get to dodge Sandy Alcantara until later this season. So I'm
Thankfully.
not horribly mad about that at this point. Um, I will say there is maybe some positives to take away from the beginning of the season so far, and some things to look forward to. So one of the big things for me, the positive, is how good is Spencer Schwellenbach.
Oh my
We talked
gosh.
we talked
Schwell
about him.
Himbach.
We talked about him in the preseason, and about how he was better than advertised, and I think he's even better than we thought that he was when we thought he was better than advertised. So what have you kind of seen from Schwelly, and kind of that kind of main bright spot on in an otherwise, as you said, abysmal start to the season?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, let me put it this way. Last season, he was good. He was definitely good. This season, he is insane. I mean, his location is really good. He has certainly developed, a ton of his pitches. Like his fastball looks even better. His arsenal is heightened. I think that goes to a lot of what he did in the off season, whether it was, you know, adding new stuff to his rotation, shoring up what he already has, and just coming out and being a beast. Like, I think he definitely stepped up knowing that Strider wasn't coming back immediately. And don't get me wrong, one of the things to look forward to is Strider coming back. He's had some great starts down in AAA. I think maybe he gets one more start with
Yeah.
Gwinnett, just to hit 90, 95 pitches total. before they bring him back. But knowing that we're down Strider, I think he's done a phenomenal job of stepping up to be someone that we can count on in the rotation.
Yeah, and you need that whenever you're down a couple guys. You know, Ronaldo goes down.
That hurt.
Strider's not back yet. Yeah, exactly. And you know, you're relying on Grant Holmes and AJ Smith
Chris
Shawver,
Sale.
who, you know, Chris Sale, you know, but on the back end, you've got those young, you know, AJ's still young, 22, I think. And so, you know, you're relying on some guys that, you know, you're kind of like, this could be real bad. And so to have Schwelly do what he's done, and yeah, Strider's coming back. You know, I think I saw where he's going to start one more game in Gwinnett. He's going to start in Norfolk on Thursday, and so hopefully he that goes smooth. He gets 90, 95 pitches, and we see him sometime next week in Atlanta. So,
Yeah.
you know, on the return news, we also have Sean Murphy who's back, um, and on top of that, Drake Baldwin's still with the big league club. So you know, what did you think of Drake Baldwin filling in for Sean Murphy to start the season? And then kind of how do you see this? I don't want to call it a platoon because we don't really know if that's what it's going to be yet. But it seems to me that it's going to be hard to keep Drake Baldwin out of the lineup if you're going to keep him up.
Yeah, I think so. I saw Drake Baldwin in spring training when I went to see the Red Sox Braves game. I saw Drake Baldwin, and he looks good. He makes great contact. I think he's been super unlucky with where he's been hitting the ball. I think he's trying to find the gap. He's just been unable to. Um, and so I'm excited to see him get some more time, get some more ABs and things like that. I think with Murphy coming back, they're going to slowly ramp him up. I think it'll be a platoon at first, and then I think Drake Baldwin will be there to catch on days that they want to give Sean Murphy off. I also think that it's great to have him. God forbid Murphy gets hurt again. We have someone that we can fall back on. Drake Baldwin still is a wonderful catcher. He's still, getting some hits. Granted, they're not when we necessarily always want them the most, but I definitely think that it'll be interesting. I think he'll platoon a little bit, and then we'll just see him every once in a while. Like maybe give Murph one game off every week and a half, 2 weeks, just to make sure that he stays healthy, he stays energized, and Drake Baldwin still, gets some time out there. It's also super important for him to get more time with some of our pitchers that he's maybe less comfortable with, less familiar with. He called a great game with Sale in spring training. I'm comfortable with that. I'm fine with that. But he's got to get more time with Schwelly and with AJ Smith Shawver and Grant Holmes and all of those guys so that maybe that helps them settle a little bit, especially with a guy like AJ, who comes in, usually has a shaky first, settles in, and then second or third time through the rotation starts second guessing himself, and that's where we see him, fall apart a little bit. I think he gets more comfortable with Drake Baldwin. That's going to be a power battery right there.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things too where I think if the rest of the bats kind of wake up a little bit, then maybe you don't feel the pressure to keep Drake Baldwin in the lineup with his at bats. And it's like okay, yeah, he can catch 25% of the games. But if the offense continues to play like it has played, and Baldwin's been giving you the best at bats, then it becomes hard to be like, hey, how do we keep him on the bench 75% of the time? And so I think it'll be interesting to see how it works. Obviously when Murphy's back, Acuna's back, it's a different team. And so hopefully those things provide some sparks and kind of can help get those bats going. And then Strider can help shore up that rotation. Um, and maybe it can kind of all come together here. So
Yeah.
um, you know, as we, one of the big things, the controversies on Twitter was with Braves fans was, hey, how are we going to respond to the guys when they come back to Atlanta? What are we going to do with the guys? You have some fans out there calling for the boo bird, some fans calling for standing O's, and then, Jarren Duran comes out in the Red Sox stuff and talks about his mental health struggles. And so, kind of how do you see that as a fan? We're two fans that are very passionate about the Braves, and we want the Braves to be successful. And we when they're not successful. So, kind of how do you balance that passion with reminding yourself that hey, these are real people out there that are just doing what they can, and they don't want to suck any more than we want them to at any given moment. So kind of touch on that. I know you've got a big connection to the Red Sox. So I know that hits close to home for you, hits close to home for me personally as well. So kind of touch on that a little bit, both on Jarren Duran specifically, and then also as Braves fans and just baseball fans. Like, how do you handle when your team is not performing the way that you would like to see them perform?
Yeah. To start with the team, I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you, like, don't sit there and berate them. That's not going to help them in any situation. I think with something like that, what you're looking at is, positive reinforcement is going to help more than negative reinforcement. So you don't have to be a boober. You don't have to do a standing O, but just not making it a point to be nasty to strangers on Twitter because you think you have the right to, based on one, the fact you're behind a screen, and two, based on their profession. I don't like that. I don't like bullies. I've never liked bullies. So that's kind of my stance on that. That's kind of why I had that one tweet and just sat there in the comments and argued with every person who was like, but this team, but this team. Like, no, that's never going to be me. And large part of that is because of Jarren Duran, knowing a little bit about that backstory. I'd heard that he had some issues back in 22. I didn't know necessarily the extent of it. I didn't know the how. I knew the why. But to sit there and heckle your team, heckle your players, target them in their DMs and target them online and say like, oh, I hope you kill yourself. That's not okay. And we're very lucky to still have Jarren Duran in the league because his rifle did not go off. That was a really tough read for me. I watched the first episode of that Red Sox docuseries, and they talk a little bit about it even in that first episode, but that fourth episode is where they really do a deep dive on it. And to hear that he was at that point because he felt like he wasn't good enough and it was just exacerbated by the fans hurts me, because I know I sit there and talk about the guys on Twitter. I don't say negative things,
Right.
but they see them. That's the argument I make. Just because you don't think they see our posts, Money Mike retweeted my post the other day. Like, they see everything we say. They just choose when and where and how to interact. If you're going to sit there and troll the players and they're freaking tired of it, they're going to sit there and troll you right back. That's exactly what happened this week. And I'm proud of Money Mike for standing up for himself and for the guys. And yeah, they came out on Friday and they gave us a great showing. I know that they're not happy about what happened on Saturday. They definitely felt like they had started to turn things around on Friday night. And yeah, it's the Marlins team, but Max Meyer is a good pitcher. There's a reason he's in the major leagues. We can't sit there and say, oh, but the Marlins are basically a 4A team. Like, no, these guys are constantly being talked about in trade deals for a reason. They have a wonderful development system for their minor leagues. There's a reason why everybody jokes that they're the feeder teams for the rest of the league. It's because they have great players. So to come out on Friday, dominate, feel good, come back on Saturday and lose, I'm not going to give them a hard time about that. They're giving themselves a hard enough time, especially based on what we've heard from Jarren. If any of the guys on our team are like that, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it at all. If anything, I'm just going to sit there and say, you know what? Next game. And that's what we have to look forward to tonight, is that next game. We've got a sale day, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too is to remember, um, it's one thing to acknowledge something as simple as, man, so and so's at bats lately have just looked awful. It's one thing to acknowledge that. It's another thing to, like you said, berate them, and say things to them like, you know, you need to do this to yourself, or you need to do that, um, or just be in their DMs, and it's just there's a big difference in those two things, and so I think there's a right way and a wrong way to go about commenting on a player's struggles on the field. Um, because that is, again, that's something that has to get talked about. With us in a podcast, we there's a tasteful way to do it, and there's also a way in which it's like you're kind of a horrible human being for doing it and saying the things that you're saying to these guys, because they're real players. They've got real families. They've got problems, and maybe their problems don't look like ours sometimes. But it's just you cannot say and do some of the things that these fans say and do to these players. Like you said, just because you're behind a screen, just because you think that they don't see it, or just because whatever the situation is. And so, I posted something the other day when Duran's story came out. So for somebody, myself, who has made an attempt on their life, um, I know where it's like to be in that spot. And so, very much like Duran, is it's you get up every day and it's like, hey, I'm here for a reason, and it didn't work for a reason. And so, the big thing is just be conscious of the fact that these are real people, and they go home to real families, and they go home. Not only do they see what people say about them, their spouses, their parents, some of the older players, their kids, are on social media and are seeing the things that are said to these guys. And so, the biggest thing you can do, like you said, is just support them. They know when they're struggling. They know when they're playing poorly. They know when things are not going the way that they want them to go. Um, and we just got to remember that. And we got to remind ourselves of that and say, hey, look, do we want somebody at our job berating us every time we have a bad day at work? Because I wouldn't, because I have plenty of bad days at work. And so, the last thing that we want to do with that is forget the humanity in these guys just because they are professional athletes. And so, I think for those of you that hear this, that see this, just be a positive interaction for them. Be somebody that they get on social media and they see something and it's like, man, that makes me feel good. Um, because these dudes, they're real people, and they're there. They work their tails off, and 98% of the people in the league are going to work their tails off because they want to be the best they can be. And so, just remember that. So that would be my encouragement. And I think that's a good reminder when we're going into a series like we're about to go into, where we're playing the Phillies. We're going in to play a very good baseball team. We're struggling. They've been playing exceptionally well. They just took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers.
Thank
Um,
you.
yes, exactly. and and so we need to remember all of this that we're just talking about. Like, this series could go one of two ways. One of, I guess, a couple ways. But you know, if our offense doesn't turn it around, it could be really ugly. It could be a really tough watch. And so, as we look forward, what are you looking for in this Philly series, from the team? From the players, um, and kind of what's your expectations?
Yeah. So first of all, can I just say, Sean, I'm really, really glad that you are still here. Um, it's not a laughing matter to have that discussion. It's not a laughing matter to feel that way. And so the fact that you feel comfortable saying that you did at one point, kudos to you. So thank you. But as for this Phillies series, I mean, I am looking forward to seeing the Phillies. I think that they have a great team. I think that if we even just take one or two from them, we're going to get a little bit more of that confidence back, because even though people on Twitter are saying, oh, the Marlins are 4A or, they're not a strong team, if we're able to take one or two from the Phillies who are, that's going to be a bigger confidence boost than beating the Marlins. So I think that that'll be a better look for us. I think with Chris Sale on the bump, what we're looking at is an interesting game. I think it's NOLA for the Phillies. So
I think so.
should definitely be an interesting pitcher's duel situation. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing our offense turn it around because I have faith in them.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's too much talent on this team for them to not turn it around. I just think it's a situation where everybody's starting off slow, and it's hard to overcome it when everybody's slumping. And then the couple of guys that maybe aren't slumping as much. Marcell Ozuna's getting nothing to hit. Um, the dude is walking so much. I think he's at like 13 or 14 walks on the season, just an insane
Something like
number of
that.
walks, insane number of walks. And so, you've had a couple guys show some decent at bats. Baldwin's been horribly unlucky. And so, yeah, I hope the offense turns it around. I'm excited to see Sale and Schwelly both go up against the Phillies offense. Um, I think those are two good matchups to watch as far as like, hey, how does our current 1A and 1B in our rotation, how do they fare against the top of the division,
Yeah,
and kind of see what we can take away from that. So that's probably my biggest thing. And then again, Sean Murphy. Let's see. He hit well in Gwinnett. While he was in Gwinnett, he hit well. He played well. So let's kind of see what Murph has when he comes back and see if that can't give us a little bit of jolt in the offense.
for sure. And I mean, another bat to watch, Mike Harris. He definitely started heating up in that Marlins series. I mean, yeah, that first game, we all had a good time, but he was still getting on base and getting into a position to put us, within range of scoring in that second game. And, you know, that's on the rest of our offense to help out with that. But Money Mike is starting to heat up. I'm saying it now. He's starting to heat up. And when everybody else is like, oh my God, he got it together. No, he got it together in the Marlins series. And I was saying that there's a reason why he liked my tweet and he reposted it. And then the Braves reposted that. So I'm still living on a little bit of a high. We were going to record that night. And I am so glad that we didn't because I was full on having a MenTB because I was like, oh my God. But no, I mean, I'm excited to see Mike Harris continue to put together some great at-bats. I'm excited to see Drake Baldwin come into some luck. And like you said, Sale and Schwelly. There's a reason we're calling him Schwell Himba.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, and so we're excited about that. I'm excited. I think getting home for the Braves, and then I think having a couple days off at home is probably going to do them some good. We got away from the West Coast trip. We had the really good game on Friday. Yeah, we struggled on Saturday. I get that, but having Sunday, Monday off, I think they can really recharge, reset mentally, just kind of try to get it right, and then go into a big Philly series. And like friend of the program, CJ Nitkowski said, it's about winning series from here on out. They don't need to go win every game. It's still early. We have 8 3-game series in the month of April. We just finished one because of the rain out. But if we were to win 2 out of 3 of all 8 series, which is a lot to ask, but if that's the mindset you have, you end April 16 and 15, and it's a whole different situation. So,
whole different ball
um,
game.
absolutely, 100%. And so I think we go out and say, okay, look, we don't need to go sweep the Phillies this week. Let's go get 1 or 2 out of 3, and let's get some momentum rolling. Okay, it's April the 8th. All right. Now, when it's June the 8th and we're 8 games under 500, then there's some panic. Then there's some then the sky can fall a little bit. We can chicken little it a little bit, just a smidge. But right now it's April the 8th. let's keep our heads on straight. And so, yeah, I'm excited to get back to action. This episode is being recorded at 11:32 Central Time, 12:32 out east. Braves play tonight. This will be out before first pitch tonight. So, never question our dedication. I'm in the car. Delaney's in the rain. We're out here
I'm in
making
the
it
street
happen.
right now.
We are making it happen. So, Delaney, last thoughts before we bring this home.
um, just try to not let it get to us too much. Very specifically, the guys. You know, don't sit there and give them guff or anything online. That's not what they need right now. Hopefully, they ate some more of Mama Olson's Rice Krispie treats, but not too many. Um, but just you know, calm, take our time, especially in the box. Make them throw us good pitches and try to make contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's yeah, we look at let's look for a couple guys to get going. And again, I know it's been tough, but we're watching the games because we love the Braves. We're watching the games because we love the game of baseball. And so let's remember that as we go into this. Like Delaney said, these guys are real people. They don't need us to tell them how bad they suck. Um, they know it substantially better than we do when they're struggling. So support them. Let's cheer for them. Um, but other than that, let's go ahead and bring this home. As always, guys, follow us over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, the whole nine. Everything is at Battery Mates Podcast or at Battery Mates Pod. So we keep it simple. Be on the lookout for some more content coming out. But yeah, we appreciate the support. Let's go take a couple from Philly. So for Sean over for Delaney over there, I'm Sean, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right, bye, y'all.